Welcome to the Lehigh Valley. So my question is, the definition of socialism is just a society agreeing to work together and combining their resources to make sure everyone is protected and taken care of. How can you challenge the idea that socialism is bad in the minds of the public?
You might have asked them, not me. But
is this going to be a constant thing?
No. No, it will not.
All right.
All right. You ask me fair questions, I will give you fair answers.
Thank you, sir.
That's the deal.
And you know, not everybody thought that I should come on this show.
And we appreciate it.
All right. Your network does not necessarily have a great deal of respect in my world, but I thought it was important for me to be here and have a serious discussion about serious issues. Sally asked a good question. Thanks for that question, Sally. And let's talk about it. I think it's an important issue, but it will come up. What is democratic socialism? Yeah. Fair question? Okay. So let's talk about it. Democratic socialism, to me, is creating a government and an economy and a society which works for all rather than just the top 1%. It means ending the absurd inequalities that exist today. And I want to lay this out because you're not going to hear this much on Fox, and you're not going to hear this much in the media in general. And the American people have got to conclude whether we think it is appropriate and what America is about to have 3 families owning more wealth than the bottom half of the American society, 160 million people. Whether it's appropriate for the top 1% to own more wealth than the bottom 92%. Whether it is right that 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%, when many people, Brett and Martha, who are watching this program, are working 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the bills. So, first of all, we want to create a government that works for all of us, and we want to create a political system which is based on one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And furthermore, when I talk, and you know, people have different views of capitalism or democratic socialism, whatever it may be, but this is my view. I believe that human beings, especially in a wealthy, democratic, civilized society like our own, are entitled to certain basic rights. So let me be very clear, and I'm sure we'll discuss it later in the show, Brett. I believe that health care is a human right, not a privilege. Okay? And I believe that there is something embarrassingly wrong when the United States of America is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. I live 50 miles from the Canadian border.
We're going to get in detail about Medicare.
Right. So health care is right. I believe that education, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, you have the right to get all of the education you need. And that is why I believe we should make public colleges and universities tuition free.
We're going to talk about all of this.
Good.
And we're going to try to talk about how you pay for it, which is a real question.
Absolutely.
But I just want to, back on the taxes briefly, you know, when you wrote the book and you made the money,
yeah,
isn't that the definition of capitalism, the American dream?
No. I mean, you know, what we want is a country where everybody has opportunity. You know, I have a college degree. Okay, I'm a United States Senator. But a lot of people don't have a college degree. A lot of people are not United States Senators. I want everybody in this country to be able to have health care, to have education, to when they turn on the water, have drinkable water, not toxic water. So what we are fighting for, Brett, is a society not where just a few people can make a whole lot of money, but a society where everybody in this country has the opportunity to live in security and dignity.
All right.
So there are a lot of things that I love about this answer. And there are a lot of things that I don't love about this answer. Let me first address what I love about Bernie Sanders' answer. Everything that he talked about are things that are popular to Fox News viewers. So when Fox viewers are watching this, they're seeing that Bernie Sanders is advocating for Medicare for all, which is popular with Republicans, free public universities and colleges, free drinkable water, a capitalistic society that works for all people and not just the top 3 richest families. There are a lot of things that I liked about that answer. So it was very diverse and it was very sound. Now it's the typical Bernie Sanders. So this is not like, an amazing answer to him, relative to him. This is just this thing that he's been saying over and over again. But the fact that he was able to embed that all into one answer is honestly worth my applause. So bravo, Bernie Sanders. That was absolutely amazing. Now, let's get into the particular things that I didn't like about this, the answer. First off, the question was perfect. This is how every single question should be framed. What is your view on socialism? Before you answer, I am going to give you the textbook definition of socialism. I've never seen that before. I've literally, out of all of my years watching mainstream media, I have never seen anyone clarify what they mean when they talk about socialism or democratic socialism, social democracy, capitalism, democracy, direct democracy, representative democracy. I've never heard anyone give a definition before they clarify their question. So the lady who asked this, I give huge props to her for being able to first clarify, I should say, what socialism is before asking the question. And then on top of that, the framing of the question was, this is what socialism is. How could this be bad? Now, I have mixed feelings about this because I don't agree with socialism. Socialism is social ownership of the means of production. It's more or less equivalent to what she said, where everyone has this intention of contributing to society, and that everyone has equal outcome, more or less. I don't agree with that because in my view, I think there are going to be some people who work really hard and some people who don't, and I don't think it would be right to give everyone the exact same thing. Now, I do believe in giving people basic human rights like universal healthcare, like free daycare, like universal pre-K, free college and universities. Like, there are so many things that we can give to people so that they can have opportunity to succeed in a capitalistic environment, which is kind of what Bernie Sanders was talking about. And so I don't really like socialism in that regard. That being said, however, Bernie Sanders started with saying, I am a democratic socialism. And then he gave a definition for social democracy. And this is what drives me nuts. Like, this was Bernie Sanders' first attempt at getting at the particularities of every term. And so the person who's asking the question was very specific about what socialism is and gave a textbook definition. My response would be to give a textbook definition of my stance. The textbook definition of democratic socialism has literally almost nothing to do with what Bernie Sanders said. What Bernie Sanders advocated for there was a social democracy, which is something I'm in favor of, don't get me wrong. But then he labeled it democratic socialism. And so it's like, okay, you're playing the same game that Fox News plays. Fox News labels you as a socialist. And you're mad about that because you're saying, I'm not a socialist. But then you're labeling yourself incorrectly still. Like, that's not a good idea. I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. I would have responded with, I am a social democrat, which means that I am in favor of capitalism, democracy, and social and economic interventions. And he even threw in his definition there, environmental interventions that promote social justice. And so that's social democracy. It's like a textbook definition of social democracy. So I do want to clarify for my viewers, if you're not familiar with what democratic socialism is, you should know that you can either be an advocate for capitalism or socialism. And like one of those has to be part of your framework. And there can be aspects of both involved, but for the most part, you're going to have one or the other as a core tenet of your political theory. So you're either going to be a socialist or a capitalist for the most part. Bernie Sanders is a capitalist. democratic socialist is a socialist. And so let me explain what a democratic socialist is by first explaining how socialists view that they can have a socialist society. If you want to create a socialist society, there are two means of doing that. At least there are two favorable views of getting there. You can either do it by democratic means, where you get a bunch of people to say, yeah, socialism, the actual socialism, is cool. We should have social ownership of the means of production. Yeah, let's all be in favor of this, and let's vote for that. And so what you do is you elect leaders who are like literally socialists, and you then have them create an economy that is socialist or more or less communist in that sense. And then eventually you remove the central government. The government, as Karl Marx said, withers away, and you have socialism. That's one means of getting to socialism. That's democratic socialism, using democratic means to attain socialism. The other model is communism, where you have, and I have mixed understandings of communism. So bear in mind, like what I'm about to say might be slightly incorrect, but this is my view from what I've researched. Communism is more where you have a central government that enforces a more socialist society. So you have like this one government that basically enforces a equal outcome society. That's my interpretation. I'm not super knowledgeable of communism. I really don't have to be in order to explain what democratic socialism is. So does Bernie Sanders want socialism in the long run? No, because, and this is what the Fox News host said, like, didn't you sell a book? Like, didn't you become a millionaire because of capitalism? And Bernie Sanders' answer was no. And I'm thinking to myself, no. Your answer is yes. Your answer is 100% yes. What you say is, yes, it is by capitalism that I became a millionaire. I actually encourage millionaires to become people to become millionaires. People should try to become millionaires. That's the whole point of social democracy. But the thing about social democracy that distinguishes itself from, say, anarcho-capitalism is that you try to give everyone equal opportunity, social justice, where everyone has a fair chance to be the next Jeff Bezos. And it matters on how hard you work, that determines the outcome. So if you work really hard, really hard, you can be a billionaire. You could be a millionaire or whatever. And so what I would have said was, like, there's nothing wrong with being a millionaire. In fact, there's nothing wrong really with being a billionaire, so long as you have a society that promotes the little guy, that has social justice, that has a nice amount of income inequality, not equal outcome, but a good amount of income inequality, where you don't have 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom 50%. So I didn't really like that Bernie Sanders was like, oh, I'm not a capitalist. Whoa. Elizabeth Warren was asked a very similar question regarding capitalism. And her response was very simple. I'm a capitalist. And for some reason, people think like that's a bad thing. No, being a capitalist is a great thing. Now, I teach at a university. I had Turning Point USA come, and that was absolute disaster, say the least. They are a very partisan, nonprofit, nonpartisan group. And they have these stickers that say, socialism sucks. And I went up to them and I said, and they were like really interested in my view because they know I'm progressive. And they said, like, hey, socialism sucks. And I looked at them and I said, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. 100% correct. Socialism sucks in my view. I don't think it could work. It's never been tried. No one has ever tried socialism. And that's a fact, guys. No one has ever tried it. Communism has been kind of pseudo-attempted with like China and USSR and everything. That's about it. Not really socialism. And then there was another thing, and this is something that I would get at when it comes to social democracy. There was on Turning Point USA, they had this thing where, hold on, let me see if I can write it down. It said, freedom is greater than free stuff. That was one of their slogans. And it looks something like this. I don't know if you can see this. It's probably going to be really bad on the camera, but it says, freedom is greater than free stuff. And I told them, I said, okay, so are you in favor of the police force? And they said, yeah, they provide freedom. And I said, okay, so you don't think that they're free? And they said, no, they're not free. You have to pay taxes. I said, okay, so then can you give me an example of something that's free? Because like what they're trying to say is like Bernie Sanders advocates for socialism. And so I said, give me an example of something that is considered free stuff. They said, well, they want to provide, these socialists want to provide free health care. And I said, so they're not proposing any sort of taxes that are going to pay for it? Right? Because think of that line of reasoning. Police force, how do you pay for it? Taxes. Medicare for all, how do you pay for it? Taxes. Which one is freedom and which one is free stuff? And so it was hilarious. And I wish I could have recorded it because I just totally threw these guys under a bus in front of themselves. It was awesome, but that's Turning Point USA for you. Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, great people, not great people. So that being said, I just wish Bernie Sanders would clarify, this is what social democracy is. This is what democratic socialism is. I do want to mention real quick, I know I keep rambling on, but this is really important. Understand that there are a lot of people who advocate we shouldn't be talking about labels. Let's not talk about the labels. The logistics doesn't matter. Just know here, this is what I advocate for. I advocate for a fair capitalistic society, or a fair market where people are treated with dignity. Right? That's a very common stance. That's something that Tulsi Gabbard clarified when she was asked about her being a socialist from, I think it was either CNN. I think it was CNN or MSNBC. I can't remember. But I thought to myself, no, you're just confusing everyone. Like, it'd be nice if everyone had labels according to like an objective political theory, like maybe the Oxford political theory textbook or whatever, dictionary. I highly encourage you guys, by the way, to purchase that. It's a great political theory textbook if you want to know more about political theory in general. And you just label yourself. You look for your platform and you say, yes, I am a social democrat. And that way labels do matter. And now if you ever want to ask me, like, what do you who are you? What is your politics? My answer would be social democracy. That's it. Social democracy. And this is what I mean when I say advocating for economic and social interventions that promote social justice. And that's it. And then you know exactly where I stand. You know that I'm a capitalist. You know that I'm in favor of a democracy. You know everything about me, pretty much, for the most part. But when Bernie Sanders says, I'm a democratic socialist, I think to myself, oh, geez. No, you're not. You're not a democratic socialist. That's not who you are. Come on, dude. Come on.